It is all about cauliflower today in the sartorial kitchen. Kicking things off, it is a cauliflower salad with a bacon vinaigrette. Then it's my roasted cream of cauliflower soup. And last but not least, cauliflower pizza with a sun-dried tomato pesto, bacon lardons, and parmesan. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me?
Back everybody, just a last look at the garden for the season. It is cauliflower, but I'm starting with a salad, and I want some kale for that. I've got some beautiful dragon kale here, which gets that kind of purplish color. So I'm just going to pick a few leaves of this. We're going to chop it up. It's just a salad for me, so I don't need too much. I've got my little basket here so I can wash as I go. And let's get some of these little guys here. I love this color. Alright, I think that's pretty good. Welcome back, guys. Got my kale here. I'm just going to break it up some before I rinse it. Any of these really big, like stem pieces, I'm leaving this to the side. And then you also hear that sizzling. I've got some jowl bacon here, real thick cut. I'm letting that reduce. I want it to get nice and crispy. I want that fat to render down because I'm using that fat for our dressing. It's going to be so good. Alright, I've got the kale chopped up. I'm just going to come in here, give it a little rinse. Make sure any dirt or unwanted guests are no longer present. I love this thing, so I use it as like a basket to collect things out of the garden. But then you come in here with it, all your greens, you just give it a few spins. It's like a centrifuge, it pulls all the water off. While that continues to dry, I think my bacon is finished. I'm going to pull that off of the heat. And yeah, that looks good. Okay, let's start assembling our salad, shall we? First thing I want to do is remove the bacon from our grease here. I've got a little paper towel on the side, and that's just to let this drain. So I'm going to take a little of this bacon. It's going to be a nice crunchy garnish on our salad. But the majority of this is going to be a topping for our flatbread. It's going to be extremely decadent. Alright, next thing I'm going to start on is the dressing. I always like to do my dressing first, then mix it up and I can see how it tastes, and then I throw in all my veggies and just toss it up. So we're going to start with some Dijon mustard here. About a couple tablespoons. Sounds like a lot, but I want this to have lots of flavor. And then to that, some apple cider vinegar. Got a couple tablespoons of that as well. And let's go ahead and start whisking here. I want to combine the mustard and the vinegar. Almost makes kind of like a sauce, but you need that oil to emulsify it. And that's where this bacon grease comes in. And I want it to be nice and hot. Of course, I'm not using all of this. That would be overkill. But, about 3 spoonfuls. Maybe just a little more. And then, of course, some salt and pepper. Not too much salt. The grease is going to have a little salt from the bacon in it. But, of course, some pepper. And give that another whisk. And you can see now it really starts to come together. Alright, now, of course, we cannot have cauliflower salad without cauliflower, so I've got some florets here. I just picked up from the grocer. And I just need maybe about half this bag. I'm going to use the rest for a soup. And these are pretty big. If they're little pieces, they can kind of just go in as is. I'm just going to kind of trim the stems a little bit. Maybe cut them in half, depending on how big or little pieces are. Okay, that is the last of our cauliflower here. Beautiful. I like that contrast of what cauliflower is going to give against the kale. I think it's going to be really lovely. It's really, really adheres nicely to that dressing. Now, let's grab our kale. Should be nice and dry by now. And then you see how that water sloshing around. That's the beauty about this thing. So we have our nice kale here. Nice and dry and clean. Just dump it all in. You could use iceberg if you like. I just prefer kale. Plus I had an abundance of it in the garden. Now let's give this a little toss here. I just like to make sure everything gets coated in that beautiful dressing. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now let's grab a bowl. Alright, little plate here. Just a nice generous helping there. Make sure I get all of that cauliflower. Oh yeah. We'll come in here and get a few pieces of our bacon here and just crumble it on top. It's like protein meets crouton. So good. Well, let's dig in, shall we? I want to try and get everything in one little bite here, if I can. So good. So you get the crunch. The cauliflower, since it's still kind of in that raw preparation, it has some nice texture. The croutons are really good. That dressing, you get heat from the mustard. Just a little acidity from the vinaigrette, but that bacon grease, oh, it just makes it so luscious and decadent. So good. I'm going to finish this up, and then we will start prepping our soup, so stay tuned. Alright guys, we're back. That salad was delicious, but it's time to move on to our soup. So I've already got some a container of chicken stock with equal parts water simmering on the stove. And then I've got my cauliflower here. I also have some onions and some cloves of garlic. This is garlic from my garden. I've had it in the freezer to preserve it, which is actually good because that's going to let the garlic cook without getting burnt, because it cooks a lot quicker than everything else here. So I've just doused it in some olive oil. I'm going to be roasting this off to really maximize the flavor out of this. But I'm just going to season it up real quick with some salt. Generous sprinkling of salt. We want this to have lots of flavor. Also some pepper. Just make sure everything is well coated. And then for a little extra flavor here, I've got some nutmeg. Just a classic kind of French flavoring here. I'm going to do just a little of that. It's kind of strong, but it goes really well with creamed soups. And for some heat, some cayenne. Again, just a little heat. Then you come in here with some clean hands. And we're just going to toss everything together. I want to make sure all those seasonings are well dispersed. Alright, that's great. Rinse my hands off real quick. So I've already got the oven set to 400 degrees. These are going to cook for about 20 to 25 minutes until they're just got a nice little char on them. And while that happens, we'll start working on our flatbread dough. Okay, time for the dough now. So I've got some riced cauliflower. You can use the florets if you want, but you have to cook them first. And then kind of mill them down. It's a little more labor intensive. The riced cauliflower is going to save us a lot of time here. Now, it comes frozen, so I just kind of let it defrost. You're going to need 2 packages for this recipe. And then I just, using my sieve here to get any extra liquid out. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a soggy crust. No fun. And I just kind of press down on this. Try and get as much liquid out of that as I can. That's pretty good. I'm just going to carefully dump this in. Doesn't get all over. And for the second bag, as you can see, our towel is soaked. That's exactly why we do that. Nobody wants a soggy pizza crust. And then again, we're just going to carefully dump this into our food processor. Gorgeous. Alright, now we just need a few other things here. Some Parmesan. I've got 2 kinds here. I got the shredded, which is gonna, I'm gonna put a little of that in here, but I really wanted it for a topping here. So I'm throwing in about a cup. You really need about a cup and a half, so I'm going to take just a little of this here. We'll save the rest to top our flatbread with. And lastly, 3 large eggs, and I'm going to be very gentle cracking them to make sure I don't get any shell in our crust. That would be terrible. Alright, that looks pretty good. Make sure this crust is nice and flavorful. Some garlic powder. About a teaspoon. That's good. And about a half teaspoon of Italian seasoning. It's going to give a nice little color to the crust as well. And we just get this baby running and give it a nice pulse. I think that looks pretty good. Just going to check it real quick. Just want to make sure that it all comes together almost like a dough. And I think we look good. Okay, so I've got my round little pizza pan here. I'm just going to dump this mixture right out onto the board. Make sure we get everything here out of this food processor here. Right. And we just come in here with some clean hands and we're just going to form our dough. We just want to make sure that it's all together. If you're familiar with like grits or anything like that, if you're doing like, you know, like a grit cake, it almost has like a similar texture to it. And I want this to be about a 1/2 inch thick. I don't want it too thin. I want it to have some body to it so it holds up to our toppings. But I do want that kind of nice, crisp, thin bottom. And this makes a pretty big pizza or flatbread. Okay, beautiful. Alright, I think we're good to go. This is going to go in the oven 400 degrees, which I've already got my oven set to about 10 minutes or so, just to par cook it. Then we'll pull it out and top it with our ingredients. Guys, I'm pulling the veggies out. Ooh, look at that nice char on everything. So good. I'm going to go ahead and move our dough up here to the top shelf so it gets a little more color on it. That looks amazing. Alright, so we're going to add this mixture to our stock. So I'm just going to get a slotted spoon here and throw everything in. Okay. Just come in here, scoop everything up, throw it right into our liquid here. Oh, that's looking so good. It smells amazing. You really smell that nutmeg and the cayenne. And of course the garlic. I love the smell of roasted garlic. Just throw all of that right in. Beautiful. Amazing. Alright, this is already looking good, but we're going to come in here now with my hand attachment. Come in here and give it a nice little break down the cauliflower and the garlic. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, you could do that in the food processor if you want, but I would do it in smaller batches and kind of ladle in the broth. But we just used our food processor for the dough, so hand mixer it is. Now you could totally eat this as is, perfectly fine, but it would not be cream of cauliflower soup without some cream. Just a small container here of heavy whipping cream. I'm going to pour in that whole thing, and then I'm going to let this continue to cook. As it bubbles down, that cream's going to reduce and really thicken up our soup nicely. And then we'll come in here and just give it a little stir. Make sure everything is nice and incorporated. I think I'm going to throw in just a little more salt and a little more pepper. And that should be pretty good. And then we will check on our pizza dough. Alright, while that soup cooks down, let's pull our crust out. Ooh, yeah, look, it's getting a little nice little bubbliness. And it's nice and firm. You can kind of press on it and it gives back. Alright. And drizzle just a little oil on here. And then I've got some toppings here. The rest of our bacon. A little bit of that onion I diced up for the soup. And then of course our cheese. And our sauce here. I wanted to do a pesto, but then I was looking, I saw sun-dried tomato pesto, and I thought, what? Now this is really thick as is, so I'm going to dump this out. Now if you want, you could use a marinara, or you could even do like an Alfredo sauce, whatever you like. I just thought this would be fun. So I'm going to add just a little water to this, a couple tablespoons, just to kind of thin this out a little. It's also going to stretch it out because we've got a lot of crust here. So I want to make sure I have plenty of sauce. Oh, that's perfect. And we're going to I'm just going to dump that sauce all over here. And then we'll take our spoon and just kind of push it out. Not quite to the edge, just shy of it. Yeah, that's looking really good. I don't want the sauce too thick in any area because that's going to also make our crust a little on the soggy side. But I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? On to the rest of our ingredients. I've got my onion here. I may not even use all of this. I'm just going to kind of disperse it out. It's going to get nice and caramelized on top. It's going to be so good. Our bacon from earlier. And again, we're just going to kind of evenly disperse this. Okay, that's pretty good. And last but not least, the rest of our parmesan. And again, you could use any kind of cheese you like, any kind of toppings. This is just kind of what I felt like doing. And it looks like I have just enough cheese. How about that? Beautiful, right? Alright, so this is going to go back in the oven for about another 12 to 15 minutes. Until the crust is completely finished and the topping is nice and warm through. That cheese is going to get nice and bubbly on top. And those onions are going to get nice and caramelized. So good. Alright guys, let's dish this baby up. Let's get a nice ladle full. Nice and creamy, and it's thickened up just enough. And I have some seeds here, just for a little texture. Just like to garnish a little on top. And there you have it, cream of cauliflower soup. Doesn't that look delicious? Just come in here and get a nice spoonful. It's hot, gotta blow on it. So good. So you get that creamy, kind of luscious texture from all those pureed veggies, heavy cream. Beautifully seasoned. The nutmeg gives it something interesting. Then you just get that whisper of heat from the cayenne. So good. Alright, I'm going to finish this up. But I think our pizza is just about ready to come out. Alright, pizza time. That looks so good. Look at that, nice and crispy on the edges. All those toppings are cooked through. The onions have some nice color on them. So good. I'm going to let this cool just a bit before I cut into it. And we will be ready to give it a taste. Alright guys, time to cut into this thing. Doesn't it look amazing? I think I'm gonna go lengthwise here. Make it more of an appetizer style. So good. So the crust was still just a little moist, so I let it sit on this rack here, and I had it underneath so it could really get some heat, let some of that heat escape from underneath, so we get a nice firm product. But I think we are good to go. I just want to give it a nice taste. Alright, tell me that does not look delicious. I've already done dishes, so we're using the paper plates here. I just want to come in here. Listen to that crunch. Oh. So the crust, you got that nice firm crisp on the outside, but it's a little kind of soft and chewy in the middle. Just how I like it. The acidity of the tomato pesto cuts through the richness of the crust. You get some nice crunch from those bacon pieces, saltiness from the parmesan, a little sharpness from the onion. Perfect textures and flavors there. Nice little meld. Of course, like I said, you can top it however you like, different toppings, but this is what I went with today. So, I'm gonna clean this up here, but thank you all for joining me in the kitchen once again. As always, like and subscribe, hit me up in the comment section, and until next time.